So is it true? Do we actually create our own reality? Let's explore how science now agrees with what mystics have known for centuries. So this is a major concept in the modern day spiritual movement, that you create your own reality. So now let's look at it from the scientific point of view. And when you do, there's absolutely no way that this can be the case. Or is there? The scientific point of view looks at us existing as a organism within a dead universe of matter. Now, the spiritual point of view is that you are a part of a universal consciousness and your body is just a vehicle for you to travel through life. But it generally thinks of you existing as a smaller part of a much larger whole, that everything is connected. So now, when I first heard of the idea that you create your own reality, the scientist in me thought immediately, how can you actually create your reality if you aren't directly connected to your outside reality? Eventually, I created my own take on this whole concept of how we relate to our outside universe, how we relate to the innermost part of ourselves, and how we actually do create our own reality, more from a scientific point of view. The concept is simple. Let's look at it. The physical part of us, our body, takes in information through our sensory organs and translates it into electrical signals interpreted by the computer of our body, which is the brain. So at your core, you are nothing more than a self trying to make sense of the input sensory information that is just electrical signals being computed by your brain. Now, what do you do with this information? You, every moment that you exist, take in that sensory information. You then take this information and have to construct a whole worldview as to what's going on outside of your body, because your body can only see internal, it can only see externally through the senses. So that information has to get interpreted, mulled around into this whole concept, this whole web, this whole construct of what is going on out there, what the world is. So this literally means, from a more scientific perspective, that your entire world, your universe, is constructed by you. Your experience of it, the only thing that you ever experience, is the construct, the imagination, the idea that you create that represents the world going on inside yourself and outside of yourself. So now, I think this idea is fascinating because, again, all throughout history, there's been yogis, mystics that have talked about these concepts, but because they never had the tools that we have now of science to understand different aspects of biology, different aspects of psychology, we never really were able to look at it from a more scientific point of view. Knowing this is all well and good, and it's a pretty cool concept to know over, but is it really useful in your everyday life? So now, this is the idea that can change who you are as a human being for the rest of your days. The idea is pretty simple. Once you understand that you create your living experience of reality every moment, every millisecond, you then have the ability to be unaffected by anything that's outside of you. Now, no, I don't mean being able to make things levitate or do anything out of the ordinary. What I'm talking about is taking back full control of your inner experience of life. So for instance, if you go out throughout the course of the day and you just think about how many negative emotions you might experience, how many thoughts you would have rather not had to begin with, you can use all this information of how you create your reality to then decide not to consciously create those negative thoughts, those negative experiences for yourself. It'll change your whole daily living eventually. Once you understand and master this concept of being able to understand how you create your reality, how this takes place every day, what different factors play a role, and how you can use this to your benefit. So the idea really is that if you are creating your reality every second, every millisecond that you're alive, that means that you have the ability to create it to be something. Right now, what we mostly do is run off of unconscious, processes, a lot of things that we picked up from other people throughout our lives, whether it's society as a whole, whether it's our parents, whether it's our friends. So we have these things that we've learned from others, these ways of thinking, these constructs, these mental ideas and beliefs. We use all of these unconsciously to create our reality throughout the course of the day. So what I'm looking to do is help other people understand that you are creating a reality every moment. You have to be if you're experiencing something. Now the question is, you creating your own reality, The reality that you're going to create, is it something that somebody else has taught you to live? Or are you really looking to experience something that you decide you want to experience? Are you going to create the reality you desire to create? One thing I love to share about this that illuminates it to the fullest is one of these unconscious scripts that we're taught from society about a situation. So it's an idea that you're taught about a situation, about how to respond. So very simply, say you're driving around in traffic and somebody cuts you off. We've all learned to have an unconscious negative reaction to being cut off in traffic. This is learned throughout society. This is learned from our friends and family. It isn't even something that you think about at this point because it is so unconscious. But if you're cut off in traffic, most likely you're going to experience an uncontrolled negative reaction. You're going to be pissed off. And even sometimes, depending on how bad it was, you can be super pissed off, which we have all experienced. This is so built into you at this point that you don't even think about it. It just happened. This is a clear example of an outside situation controlling your inner state of being. Your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your mood even. You could have been perfectly happy until you got cut off. And then that caused you to experience this negativity. So now that you allowed this outside situation to dictate your inner state of being, now every person you talk to, everything you think, everything you look at, you're only going to be looking from a negative point of view as long as you are still within that negative mood that was caused from this outside situation that you interpreted through the normal way that society tells you to in a negative way. So now, let's take that into consideration and summarize this as a whole. The bottom line is that we create our reality every second that we exist. Now, this reality that we construct, that we generate, is usually made out of the ideas and concepts of how we've been taught to react to things that happen outside of us. Then, in turn, to things happening outside of us and us viewing them through the certain lens that society gave us to view those things. Now, we react in accordance to how we've been taught to react. This is what causes us to generate the reality that we don't prefer. The feelings, the negative mood, the negative thoughts, the unpreferred state of being is all generated by us. We may feel like it happened because of something that happened to us, but in reality, when you really break it down the way that we're looking at it today, you generate your every moment state of being. The only reason that it's happening in a way that you don't prefer is because you're unconsciously putting all these spins on things that you usually pick up from society. So because you react to things in a way that you've been taught to react, such as the person that cut you off, you're immediately pissed off, you're experiencing negative emotions, you're now going to be in a negative mood state for the next, say, 20 minutes. You are now going to, act in accordance to being in a negative mood, which means that not only is your inner state of being affected, now the relationship with you and everybody else that you're connected with during that time that you're in a negative mood is going to be affected as well. So let's extrapolate this to a larger extent. So letting the outside situations cause you to be in a state of being that you don't prefer to be, a negative state, means that you are quite literally a slave to those outside situations. You literally are not free to decide who you are in the moment because you're acting off of these definitions and ideas that you picked up from others. So now this is a little bit of how I use this information to be able to take back full control over my own emotions, my thoughts, my feelings, whenever I experience myself in a, say, mood that I'm not happy about, say I'm feeling a little bit anxious about something. I'll sit back and I'll think, whoa, what have I learned to think and feel about this situation that I'm experiencing that causes me to feel a negative way? And is that something I prefer? Is that something that I have to react in that way too? Is this just something I learned from society, from my parents, from my friends? Then once you understand that this isn't really your choice, this isn't something that you really want to be experiencing, you can in an instant decide not to experience it. Once you get to the underlying idea of where it came from, who it was that might have taught you this idea, you can understand it as something that you don't have to experience because it's not necessarily anything that has to do with you anymore. You can decide right now to be different. Now, granted, this does take a little while to take effect. This does take a little while to really gain traction because you're operating on so many different unconscious ideas that it is really pretty difficult sometimes, especially, difficult when you're feeling a really intense emotion, to be able to flip the script, to be able to change your ideas, to be able to completely change your mood in an instant. This will take time. For me, it took years. It took maybe, since I started studying all this stuff and really diving into myself every day, as far as my deepest, intellect, my deepest, core being, who I am, what makes you who you are. This stuff took maybe 6 to 10 years. But eventually you do get to the point in which you really can control who you are in every moment, due to the fact that you understand you create your reality every moment that you exist. There's no moment that you exist that you are interpreting in a reality that you aren't generating within your own head. It's impossible. It's the only way it works. So if you are experiencing something you don't prefer to experience, look at the root cause of what might generate that idea within you. Understand that you're only operating off of ideas the society and your friends and family have taught you, the lens that they've made for you to be able to view reality through, and that lens, you can squeegee off all the dirt. You can make it into a different lens. You can make the idea a different concept, so that now you can go ahead and view reality through the lens that you create, that you want to see reality through. So I've thrown a few concepts out here today for you to interpret. Let me know, what kind of things that you might view are flaws in my logic. Look at different ideas of how you might interpret this within yourself. Let me know if it's different, because again, we can only speak from our subjective experiences within ourselves. So I'm only looking at reality through the structure of my own being. And I'm trying to look at it as unbiased as possible, but again, it's impossible because reality is subjective. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let me know if some of these things are things that you experience within yourself, if you've ever been able to consciously generate your own, reality in the moment. If you've ever been experiencing something negative, flip the script immediately and now generated the reality that you want within yourself. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's different ways that I could have said things. I'm going to make a whole lot more videos on these kind of subjects. So if you want, work with me. In my opinion, we are all working together. We are all fighting on the same side of trying to be the best people we can be and live the most loving lives that we all can together, making the world a much better place. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are and create your moment. Thank you.